A big breaking moment in the last several months was when Tucker Carlson was interviewing Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz says, look, I learned in Sunday school, if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. If you curse Israel, you'll be cursed. And Tucker Carlson, pushed back on him on that. It's from Genesis chapter 12. For Christians, historically, and for Catholics, and for Eastern Orthodox, we interpret that through the lens of a book of the New Testament called Galatians, perhaps the oldest book in the New Testament. It's written by St. Paul. And in Galatians 3:16, Paul says that God made the covenant with Abraham and his seed, singular, not plural. And Paul says, what did God mean when he made a covenant with Abraham and his seed? He said that singular seed is Jesus Christ. The blessings of the covenant, everything that God promised to Abraham is fulfilled, not in the seeds, the descendants, but in the one seed, Jesus Christ. And so we see there that the promises to Abraham are fulfilled not in the multiplicity of the descendants of Abraham. That would include Esau, it would include Arabs, it would include Jews, Israelites, but it's ultimately fulfilled in Jesus Christ. That's a very important distinction. So what it really means is that if you bless Jesus, you'll be blessed. If you curse Jesus, you'll be cursed. It kind of puts a whole different take on it, and it's right there in the New Testament. And then Paul goes one further at Galatians 3:29, where he says, if you are in Christ, you are heirs of the promise of Abraham. In other words, you receive the blessings if you are in Christ, because Christ is the one seed. He's the beneficiary of the promise to Abraham. So now we see that if you bless Christ, you are blessed. If you curse Christ, you are cursed. And then those who are in Christ, which are believers in Jesus Christ, that the blessings apply to them and the curses apply to them as well. 99% of the time when you're talking about the state of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu and Gaza and what's going on, it is a theological argument that people make. It's based on the Bible. It's based on the Old Testament. Sometimes it's based on the New Testament. And if it's a theological argument, we need to actually do the theology. And so Ted Cruz getting on there and saying, well, I think it's in Genesis somewhere, and I learned it in Sunday school. And Tucker Carlson pushes back and he says, wait, you're basing your entire foreign diplomacy as a senator on what you kind of remember from Sunday school when you're using a theological argument to send billions of dollars in weapons to fund wars in the Middle East.
You know who Virgil Walker is? He comes on the show.
Sure, yeah.
Virgil just texted me that, like, hey, Taylor's right here. He's 100% correct.